Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our today webinar of the Urban Intergroup, which is dealing with the urban agenda of the European Union. And our special topic today is affordable housing initiative. Why we were choosing this topic as one of those which we are working on and as Urban Intergroup. It is because housing, affordable housing, to have a roof for where you can live under for you and yourself, family, is an issue which becomes more and more important, and also more and more people are also affected that looking for an apartment, for a housing, is becoming more and more expensive and a financial challenge. And we see that with limited space and growing societies, especially in urban areas, of course, this pressure continues. But at the end, I think it's not an battle which we already have lost. I think it is an issue where urban policy and also the European policy can contribute to a solution of this issue and how to tackle this issue. Affordable housing slash social housing is one tool also to leave the issues of housing not only to the market forces, but also to, let's say, intervene in the sense of the people who are looking for houses, especially affected to this issue, of course, young families and people which are, let's say, starting their professional life career and have therefore also limited financial capacities. I'm saying this because also what we observe, of course, since the financial crisis in 2008 and afterwards, that the circles especially increased also the pressure on the housing market, because people left out of other investment and they went into what we call concrete goals. So the kind of investment in housing, which of course at the end is not only in order to fulfill the needs of housing, it's also an investment, and therefore the prices circle is going up. And this also we see quite strongly in a lot of investment programs, which also has an impact not only on the social infrastructure and those people which looking for houses, but also of course on how we think a development of a city, of an urban area, fulfilling a lot of other issues like social infrastructure, traffic infrastructure, recreation infrastructure, cultural and educational infrastructure, and green spaces is also effective, sometimes negatively. Therefore, it is necessary to exchange a lot of ideas which can counter this issue. I'm happy that we have today a huge and good program of speakers, which can bring also a lot of initiative. You can see it now on the screen also who is there. Is the European Commission, a lot of this Housing Project 2030, and a lot of cities like Michi Kauer from the city of Vienna, Ljubljana, the International Union of Tenants, the Investment Bank, and Jan then will do the conclusion also for the intergroup. I'm saying this because why also these stakeholders are on the panel today, because it's a question of course, that's why the EIB, which is also supporting with its program social housing and affordable housing initiatives, but also the cities which can prove by urban planning tools, but on this other side also by having a social housing program having a strong effect. And the effect is not only to control prices and keep prices down, to offer to the families also affordable houses, but also make something like urban planning, because a lot of fascinating architectural and urban planning projects also carried out by social housing initiatives, like reuse of former railway structures, like the city of Vienna, for example, was doing, and other issues. So therefore, we see there is a lot of impact, and we should work and tackle this issue. As the European Commission, and the last days, we had this State of the Union speech of the President of the European Commission. And what we also see is there is a lot of challenges. Climate is one of those. And also affordable housing, including climate goals and including sustainable building processes and planning processes, is a tool which can affect the climate and allow also that the solution of the climate, or the answer of the tackling of the climate crisis, is not only attacking, let's say, the medium-sized income people, so that at the end also they can continue to have affordable housing as such. Said quite already much. I will now thank you all for participation. We are again extremely happy as Urban Intergroup that we have more than 60 participants, which is showing that it is an extremely interesting issue. So not to talk too long, I will hand over, I think, now to Michi Kauer from the city of Vienna. She is also the how we say, the ambassador of the city of Vienna and the Vienna Liaison office. And also working very much in Eurocities and other structures. So Michi, welcome here, and I give you the floor.
Yes, thanks a lot, Andreas Schieder. We are very proud to be here today upon the invitation of the Urban Intergroup in the European Parliament. And I am especially happy to say that the European Parliament has always been the strongest partner and supporter in the whole process of the urban agenda for the EU. As we all know, the urban agenda for the EU would not have been able to start without also President Olbricht's personal commitment to enable the structures to support the whole process of the urban agenda for the EU. So I think this is an appropriate moment to also mention that, and we are counting on, of course, the future support of the Intergroup and the European Parliament in this. I'm here today, and I hope that my co-speaker, Elena Shulgayova, has managed to step into the conversation. We are here today as the former coordinators of the Urban Agenda EU Housing Partnership, together with a lot of friends from this nice multi-level, multi-stakeholder experience we were able to undertake since 2016. And what we did is, in fact, we clearly, Mr. Schieder has already mentioned that, we talked about housing challenges for the first time on EU level, together with cities, member states, EU institutions, EIB, knowledge hubs, knowledge organizations like URBACT. And this was a very, very fruitful and I would say also effective way to work together and to work on social and affordable housing solutions for the European citizens. It has been mentioned that there is a global financial crisis, there is a climate crisis, there is a pandemic that have aggravated an already difficult and very, very challenging situation in the local, regional, and national housing markets. But we also should always see that there is a very rich fabric of housing solutions across the European Union. And because we are also talking a little bit about the global context, also in the UNICE region, we're going to see into one of the projects that have kind of, that are part of a spin-off, if I may proudly or humbly say, of the work of the Housing Partnership. So we've seen a lot of challenges, and some have already been mentioned also: gentrification, financialization, touristification, a growing number of citizens who are overburdened by housing costs. This is something where we also have seen that there is a female face to poverty and also to housing poverty. And this is something that we have been pressing a lot in our partnership as well. I think that's also appropriate to mention that, given the good gender balance of the panel today. We have seen that it's clearly important that people need protection from eviction in order to be able to participate in the co-creation of their neighborhoods in order to make them livable. So main findings, and I'll be very brief on that because this has been in the discussion already for a while. Main findings are: how can we deblock investments potential? How can we have more funding and financing directed towards social, public, and affordable housing? How can we really make the point, and I think we did this successfully, that the EU's policies and legislation have a clear impact on housing. And we've seen a lot of development in the past years now. The EU has taken up the issue, and this is also the reason why we're here today. There is a need to really promote participatory and rights-based approach in housing policies on all levels. We will see examples from cities today. This is the urban intergroup meeting, but clearly we also know that in several countries, not only in the European Union, but across the globe, national housing policies start to evolve in the right context. Maybe the sad reason is that the pandemic created the need for more protection and regulation, but nevertheless, the protection is needed also for other reasons. So having said that, the Housing Partnership concluded its work formally in 2018 with an action plan that has developed 13 concrete recommendations, policy recommendations and actions. And we did not stop at that point. So from 2019 on, the members of the partnership, the action leaders, continued to advocate for their causes and for their proposals and recommendations. And again, I must say, the European Parliament has been one of the biggest and strongest partners in that exercise. Not only that the research service of the European Parliament tackled the issue of housing at several locations from different angles, but we were happy to see a special and dedicated report coming up, an own initiative report by Rapporteur Kim van Sparentak in 2020. And we've been, all of us members of the partnership, involved in working closely on different topics and dossiers on European level. One of them being on top of the agenda, clearly the protection of local housing systems from further touristification, the whole issue of short-term touristic rental. We've been discussing this with Parliament, with Commission. Clearly, we are also involved in looking at and assessing the ongoing EU initiatives, the renovation wave, the action plan of the European Pillar of Social Rights. We are still calling for a revision of the EU state aid rules. That's a clear commitment that we have developed also, and based on a lot of findings and analysis of cases across all EU countries and from different perspectives. And what's really new, and I think this is really important, and Elena will also talk about the role of member states later on, we've been working with the EU presidencies to see where can we have a point for structured and structural exchange on member states level with regard to housing policy development. So clearly, money is an issue, exchange is an issue, and capacity building is an issue. We'll come to that later with concrete examples also. But I think that I think for today's meeting, when we're going to talk about the Affordable Housing Initiative, and that's clearly also with the I would say its cultural arm, the new Bauhaus initiative that is now promoted and proposed by the European Commission, we have come to a point on EU level, we have never been that far. So really, it's also time to celebrate a little bit the achievements. Clearly, I'm an urban representative here. We'll never be satisfied. We'll never have enough. We'll never say that this is where we need to be. But we have there is a recognition on EU level, I must say, that housing is a top issue for European citizens, and that something needs to be done. So time to rethink housing policies. That's not only true for the local, regional, national, and the EU level, but that's clearly also true for what Elena is going to talk about. And I hand over to her as she is now the link to the global community. Thank you, Elena, for doing this together with me. And thank you so much for being this, my I would say, best partner ever in this extremely interesting adventure.
Thank you very much, Michaela, and good morning, everybody in this virtual world where we can't see each other. Yes, as Michaela said, we are the group of people, we are the family and the ever bigger family of people who are trying to put housing very high in the thinking about the urban development. And as our action plan actually wanted to, or postulated, that there is a need for countries to exchange on the developments, because developments are not positive, unfortunately. And the COVID only underlines this statement. That was the reason for the creation of initiative Housing 2030. And Housing 2030 is a joint initiative of United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, UN Habitat and Housing Europe. So it means the national governments, global players, and practitioners. And we are concentrating on the issue of affordable social housing, mostly in housing finance. And we have 4 topics we are concentrating on. It is a housing governance, or governance in general, because housing is a very complex issue, and it is embedded in urban planning, in urban development, in a legal framework of the country, in the long-term strategies. So housing governance is very important. Then access to finance, as Miki clearly said. Then a very substantial issue, not so often mentioned, is availability of land, because the land is one of the limits for either positive or general development of our cities. And then very actual climate neutral housing construction and renovation. This is the challenge. And I can say on this place that yes, 10 years ago on EU level, housing was a sort of a taboo word. It was not discussed, it was the national issue. By being the national issue, it somehow didn't fit in the international discussion, but now it really became a very hot topic of the international discussion. And this is well so, and we really have to thank to European Parliament, and especially Urban Intergroup, because you are the partners, the strong and high-level partners enough to keep this topic on the place where it belongs. If I may say a little bit about what the initiative did in the last 2 years, because it started approximately in the beginning of 2020. We started with the survey among 56 member states of UNECE, and to map the challenges and policy responses in housing. Then there was an online call for best practices from cities, from countries, from national governments, which are enabling affordable housing. It was launched in May 2020. And actually accumulated a huge richness of very good practices. Then there was a huge effort, which is then ending now with the publishing of the report on Housing 2030, which really actually researched the evidence and chapter drafting and presentation on these 4 topics I have mentioned. We have organized 4 thematic webinars and 7 regional webinars. And actually they addressed more than 1,200 people. So it means that interest is there and capacity to learn and to change things is there. And we also created a sort of podcast series, Making a House a Home, which is on the web page of the Housing 2030 initiative. And next slide, which actually summarizes the work of this huge research team led by Professor Judy Lawson. There is a huge report to be published now on 6 October in Geneva on ministerial meeting for ministers for housing. But the findings are actually very simple, but they are very strong, because the findings conclude that we need to rethink housing policy making. We need to rethink the role of housing. It is not just the common commercial goods. It's something which is a really human basic need and human basic right. And we have to move away from just relying on market mechanisms. For more than 3 decades, there was this paradigm that yes, the market is very powerful and it will help. But we have witnessed that the markets went havoc. This is this financialization, this short-term letting, really pushing actually normal people, not only the vulnerable groups, but the standard population out of the possibility to get affordable, decent housing. So it is necessary to shape markets better, to better deliver the housing we need, not to be afraid to intervene and to regulate actually how the markets function. And there was the stress of this need for cooperation of international community, national and local governments in these efforts. And well, I think that the last finding is actually the bridge to the future speaker, because the finding is that we need to empower cities to create livable neighborhoods, because it's not only bricks, it's the environment, it's people. So, and this is about the Housing 2030. There is a web page. Please follow us. There will be a huge web page accumulating all the best practices we have gathered, and it will be developed further. So it will be the source of information for everybody. Thank you very much.
Yes, and thank you very much, Elena. And I do see that Sorka Edwards, Secretary General of Housing Europe, which is a partner in this Housing 2030 project, has already shared the website in the chat. So also check out the chat, please, and hello to Sorka. We're coming to our next speaker. I have a double hat. I was a speaker, but now I'm a moderator as well. And our next speaker, I'm very happy to announce her, is Anna Atanasopoulou from DG GROW from the European Commission, who has not a presentation, but a few pieces of information about this new promising affordable housing initiative for us. And I'm happy to inform you, Anna, that there is a lot of people also from cities in the room. So they are the perfect match for your next messages. Anna, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Michaela. Thank you for including the European Commission in this very interesting event. And you already mentioned that housing, affordable housing and social housing has become a key issue, I would say, on the EU agenda. And I can confirm to you that we are working on this topic across different Commission services. Why? Because not only the pandemic, but even before that, it is an issue that touches a number of member states, a number of citizens on the ground. And it is an area that for us, it's a concrete way to improve citizens' well-being, improve social inclusion, but also achieve climate neutrality. But in order to achieve these goals, of course, as you rightly said, this ambition needs to be matched with adequate investment at all levels, the EU level, the national, the regional, of course, the local level. So allow me then in the next few minutes to sketch how the EU is addressing the issue of affordable housing and social housing across the different policies, and give a bit of more information and focus on the affordable housing initiative that we have launched in October 2020, a few months ago, and that we are rolling out in the next few months. So perhaps the figures are known to everybody, but I thought it's useful as a background to share some figures, also to give an indication of the challenges that we all face when it comes to making affordable housing available, but also the opportunities for public and private actors in order to join forces and deliver in this area. First of all, it's the angle of energy transition and climate mitigation. Buildings, it's no secret, are responsible for 40% of our total energy consumption in the EU. And at the same time, roughly 75% of the building stock in the EU is energy inefficient, while only about 1% of buildings undergo energy efficiency renovation every year. And we hope that this figure will be improved and will change with the additional funds that are being given for that purpose in the member states. At the same time, looking at social housing, looking at the figures, 800,000 social housing units require renovation per year. And this is about 5% of the total social housing stock. And at the same time, about 450,000 new social homes are needed per year in the EU to meet the needs on the ground. So this is a challenge, which is a shared challenge for all of us. The second is the social angle and the energy poverty angle, if you like. 34 million people across the European Union live in energy poverty. And we know that on average, housing represents 20% of household expenses for these people. And this ratio of 20% actually doubles for the poorest households. And we also observe that the COVID pandemic has worsened people's ability to cover housing-related expenses. It has increased homelessness, and we see trends in the market regarding rising electricity cost or gas prices, and certainly this would continue to have a negative impact on household expenses, especially for the most vulnerable social groups. Now, the third angle is the investment angle, and there, what we have been observing so far is not very encouraging. In the EU member states, public expenditure on housing development has decreased roughly in the last 10 years, in the period between 2008 and 2018, by roughly 30%. So this is an important figure that we hope to undo in the years to come and in the next 7 years, with all the financial tools that we have tried to put on the table for member states to use at all levels, the national level, the regional, but also the local level. And looking at the investment gap for social and affordable housing in the EU, we're looking at an estimated 57 billion euros needed per year. So that's an important figure to keep in mind. So then the question comes, what are we doing at EU level to address these challenges? While it was already said by the previous speakers that housing and social policies fall under the responsibility of the member states, it is clear that these challenges are shared challenges across the EU going beyond borders. And this is why the EU is active on the question of housing, and in particular affordable and social housing. How do we do it? Well, the European Commission is responding to this challenge in different ways, and I would say across 4 levels, on 4 levels. The first level is about setting the strategic vision and shared targets so that we know where we should be going and what we wish to achieve. The second level is about mobilizing investment and providing funding tools to support the vision. The third level is about leveraging stakeholder partnerships and providing technical assistance. And I believe the Housing 2030 project is a very clear example of that effort. But I will also come to the affordable housing initiative that we are launching, which indeed is aiming at leveraging partnerships and providing assistance. And the last level is about spurring innovation, making sure that housing renovation or construction of affordable and social housing is built on innovative solutions. And in the EU, we actually become the front runner for innovative social housing units, innovative not only in terms of technology, but also in terms of social innovation and participatory approaches. So let me briefly then come to these 4 levels. First, the level about setting the vision, the strategic vision, the objectives, the targets to build the political momentum. Where we are now, we cannot talk about political momentum or vision for the next years until 2030, 2050, without referring to the European Green Deal, which is our growth strategy for the EU, cutting across all policy areas. The key objective of the European Green Deal to make Europe the first climate neutral continent by 2050. And this also comes through housing. Of course, the European Pillar of Social Rights and social policies pays particular attention to social housing. So there again, we encourage member states and we put on the table principles about social inclusion, fairness when it comes to housing, and the Porto Declaration of a few months ago, receiving broad political support by the member states, is a very concrete example in that sense. Then the renovation wave. presented by the Commission in October 2020 with a double target. First of all, double the renovation rate of buildings by 2030 in the EU, which means renovate around 35 million buildings and create through that 160,000 green jobs. And we hope to see a lot of affordable and social housing renovation happening and being rolled out in the member states under this political, let's say, initiative. And then the updated industry strategy, perhaps lesser known in the circles of those working on urban development, but equally important. Why? Because the updated industry strategy that the Commission presented last May to support the recovery of industry and accelerate the green and digital transitions has introduced a new approach based on identified 14 industrial ecosystems, among them the ecosystem on construction and the ecosystem on proximity and social economy. And affordable housing finds its place in them, but also in other ecosystems, be it digital or electronics, or ecosystems bringing together actors across different value chains in the member states to reinforce joint value chains, reinforce development of products and also projects. So maybe last in that, I would like to mention that we will be working on the so-called pathways for the green and digital transition of the different industrial ecosystems under the industry strategy in the next months. And we will be presenting a transition pathway for the construction ecosystem and a transition pathway for the proximity and social economy ecosystem on the occasion of the adoption of the action plan on social economy before the end of the year. Why is it important to mention? It's because those pathways will be co-created with stakeholders. It is not something that the Commission will announce, but it's something that we hope to co-create together with all stakeholders, EU institutions, ecosystem stakeholders, member states, and authorities at all levels, because we need this joint commitment behind every transition for every industrial ecosystem. And then last, the new European Bauhaus, a communication adopted yesterday on the occasion of also the State of Union speech. The new European Bauhaus, it brings the Green Deal objectives on climate neutrality to our living spaces, to the products that we consume, and calls for a collective effort again, a participatory approach to build a future that is sustainable, inclusive, and beautiful. And if you look at the communication on New European Bauhaus, you will see that affordability in general and affordable housing features very prominently, also because it's something that is core for the new European Bauhaus movement. And we hope to see additional funding for social housing projects to help participatory approaches, community-driven initiatives under the new European Bauhaus. Now, the second level is about mobilizing investment, as I mentioned, and providing funding tools. We will have our colleague from the European Investment Bank speaking, so I will not dwell a lot on that, but I would like to bring two perhaps key funding sources for affordable and social housing in the next 7 years in the EU. First, the European Recovery and Resilience Facility, under which member states have presented national recovery and resilience plans to fund investments and reforms in order to support the green and digital transition and social inclusion in the member states. Among the priorities, investing in affordable housing is present, and we know that at least 14 member states have proposed and have presented a direct component or dedicated actions on social housing. And adding to that, countries with dedicated actions tackling energy poverty, that makes a minimum of 19 member states providing in their national recovery and resilience plans opportunities to fund affordable and social housing. This is a situation at the end of June. Things are evolving as member states are presenting, the last member states are presenting the national recovery and resilience plans. And in a way, this reflects the real housing needs in the member states. And we hope to see that these needs are met at all levels. And indeed, we hope to see that the role of cities, which is key for rolling out investments that responds to the needs on the ground, is fully realized. We do hope to see local authorities and cities among the key implementers of the national recovery and resilience plans in the member states when it comes to affordable housing and social housing. And then the other key source for to support social housing provision and renovation comes under cohesion policy, very much important for cities and the local level. Cohesion funding, looking at it, we know that in the previous period, member states allocated approximately 6.7 billion euros under the European Regional Development Fund to housing infrastructure and energy efficiency. And we expect that this figure will increase in the next 7 years until 2027, because at present, 80% under the European Regional Development Fund resources needs to be allocated to urban development, including housing. Now that brings me to the third level, which is about leveraging partnerships. And there I would like to refer more specifically to the example of the Affordable Housing Initiative, which is very much about social innovation and inclusion in social housing. Social enterprises and also proximity services are crucial for the smooth integration of vulnerable people and communities. We have seen that their involvement in social housing projects can deliver projects that meet residents' needs, but also go the extra mile in terms of inclusiveness and sustainability. And this is why we launched the Affordable Housing Initiative. This initiative aims to pilot 100 lighthouse districts in what we call a smart neighborhood approach, putting residents' needs, but also affordability, innovative and sustainable services at the forefront, which is very much in the spirit of the new European Bauhaus and very much in the spirit of co-creation and participatory approaches. But we know very well that this target of 100 lighthouse districts in the member states and across the EU will not be possible to reach without partnerships among public and private actors and partnerships across different sectors, from construction to urban planning to financial institutions and investors, and to social economy and proximity economy actors. And for that reason, we will set up what we call a European partnership on affordable housing, hoping through this partnership to bring together partners specialized in affordable housing across the EU, representatives of social housing, of construction, public authorities, financial institutions, banks, and investors, in order to set up a consortium that can deliver technical assistance on the ground to local public and private partnerships implementing urban regeneration projects on social and affordable housing districts. We hope that this partnership will also serve as a knowledge hub for affordable housing in the EU, for instance, providing blueprints for application, facilitating the exchange of best practice, and giving different examples, not only for social housing in urban communities, but also in other communities such as rural or suburban communities, but also to provide information on access to EU funding and funding possibilities. So for that purpose, we have published a call for proposals under the Single Market Programme. The call was published in July, and the deadline is the 20th of October. So there's still time to look at the call for proposals, find partners, and present a good application under this call for proposals. The idea is that once the partnership is up and running, we hope in the beginning of 2022, we will make sure that we connect the partners of the partnership with other initiatives at EU level, whether the Climate Neutral Cities Mission, the new European Bauhaus that I mentioned, the European Urban Initiative, but also cities communities like the Intelligent Cities Challenge, for instance. Now, I would like to close with the 4 level that I mentioned, which is about the need to spur research and innovation and smart technologies for affordable and social housing. And there again, the Affordable Housing Initiative will play a key role. Looking around the different examples of affordable housing renovation in the EU, we see good examples at district level, but very few going beyond energy efficiency. So this is why we feel that we need more experimentation to test and develop more innovative models for social housing, going beyond energy efficiency and testing technology and smart solutions to provide affordable technologies, sustainable services for residents, meeting their needs. And this is why, under the Affordable Housing Initiative, we will support these innovative solutions with a new call under Horizon Europe. This call will mobilize 10 million euros for projects demonstrating innovative methods and technologies targeting affordable and social housing districts. It was launched yesterday on the 16th of September, and it will stay open until the 25th of January. And the estimated time of these projects to start would be in the summer or fall 2022, that is in the next year. So perhaps before closing, let me come to back to the point of partnerships. Why? Because it's clear, also looking at the challenges in front of us, also looking at the needs on the ground when it comes to making affordable housing available in all parts of the EU, EU action or Commission action alone is not enough. The EU, whether it's the Parliament or the Commission, we act as facilitators. The engine for social housing projects is with national authorities, with regional authorities, and with local authorities. This is why we want to see more political leadership on the ground, because it's there that the difference will be made. And we hope that the efforts that we are putting on the table, whether it's about creating political momentum and setting strategic objectives, whether it's about making investment and funding available, whether it's about leveraging partnerships and bringing stakeholders together, and whether it's about spurring innovation, pushing for better housing solutions in the EU, will be taken up at the level of member states, but also at the level of regions and cities. And we hope that the Affordable Housing Initiative will be a key lever exactly to work in this participatory and partnership mode. So I would like to leave you with that message. And again, many thanks for giving me the opportunity to share these thoughts with you today.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Anna, for this very concise and also broad keynote. I think it was good that we also took the time to allow you to really elaborate on the different aspects. And speaking as a representative of the city of Vienna, as you can see behind me, I fully trust that we will continue the good conversation that we already had before to involve cities, because mayors have been the ones promoting affordable housing solutions as long as I can remember working in my job and before. And I just remind you that there has been a very big and important resolution of mayors back in 2013 that in fact was one of the building elements of the positioning of cities towards the European Union to allow for more social, affordable, public, cooperative housing, so the whole broad variety of this. We have a moment for questions and answers, and I have already one from the chat for you, Anna. And that comes from Barbara Steenbergen from the International Union of Tenants. And she's asking to the point of going beyond energy efficient renovation, how can you also empower the entire neighborhood, and how far residents and tenants can be an active part of this new and promising affordable housing initiative? So that's the question from the tenant side.
Yes, indeed. As I mentioned, the Affordable Housing Initiative is not only about energy efficiency. And the idea behind it is to develop knowledge in the EU and develop a shared understanding about affordable housing renovation projects to come, which take into account the needs of residents. This is why we would like, and we will make sure that part of the affordable housing partnership that we will establish at European level will come from social economy actors, community representatives, residents representatives at European level. It's really, we cannot foresee the applications that we will receive, but we really hope that we will receive applications that will bring the broadest possible representation, if I can say, of the different actors that are necessary in order to make this happen. Not only affordable housing providers or construction industry, not only funding banks and investors, not only urban development, let's say, actors, but also social economy, proximity economy, those community, I would say, rooted partners. I hope I have answered to that. Beyond that, I don't have the magic wand to say that this is the key solution, because I think not one size fits all. What we are trying to do with the Affordable Housing Initiative is to hammer the principle that great to do energy efficiency, great to renovate the building, that's not enough. We need to do it at the neighborhood level, within a logic of a smart neighborhood approach. And that cannot happen without taking into account the needs of the residents, those living in that neighborhood. So this is what is behind it. Not only the building, not only the structure, but the people and the broader space that people live in.
Yeah. Thanks, Anna, for responding. And I don't see any more questions. So I just remind also Anna and the team at DG Grow that there is a rich body of knowledge that has been created by the Housing Partnership of the Urban Agenda. And it has especially highlighted also the need for these diversified solutions, because you cannot compare the situation in an Eastern city from a Western European city. Southern Europe is quite different from Northern Europe. So you have a whole variety of systems where, if you want to bring the initiative on the ground, you will have to see into a lot of varieties also in the governance system. So I invite you also to look at the studies we have produced in the course of our work. Thanks a lot, Anna. And we are coming to the next part of our webinar today. If I didn't overlook any question. So now we are bringing to you also the examples of cities. And I'm very happy that we have two cities which are quite close and we work together quite a lot. We have a very strong neighborhood relations, Vienna and Ljubljana. Ljubljana is represented today by Šašo Rink. He is the director of the Public Housing Fund of the municipality of Ljubljana. And with all that has been said already about the Green Deal, I remind everybody that Ljubljana is a green city. It has been a European green city for a while now. If you go there, you will see a lovely city with a lot of pedestrian and I would say pedestrian-friendly solutions. So part of this interesting concept is also, of course, clearly lying in the field of housing. So I invite Sasha now to share a bit his views and his experiences from Ljubljana with the audience. Sasha, where are you? I hope you're here.
Hello, do we hear each other? It's okay?
Yes.
Hello, well, I will share my experience not from Ljubljana, but my location is Sejtat Aspirin in Vienna. So we, with my staff, are doing a study visit, particularly aimed at affordable housing and non-for-profit housing associations. And we'd like to gather some more information because non-for-profit housing associations do not exist in Slovenia or in Ljubljana. We are struggling with one which is established, but is trying to put on a project. It doesn't have any assets and so on. About the state of housing in Slovenia and in Ljubljana, it's practically true that Ljubljana and Vienna are very close together, but they are very far apart as far as affordable housing is concerned. During the independence, all the housing stock basically was sold off. Ljubljana has 300,000 inhabitants, about 100,000 flats, and we own as a public housing fund now 4,500 flats. So that's very small amount in comparison to all the housing flats. And I'm sorry, my staff is here, and we are really struggling with new construction and especially funding. What I would like to put in front of the Slovenia's case is that our government would start to understand that basically affordable housing is one of the preconditions for a healthy society, even for healthy economy. And now of course, the European agenda and the things that are happening on the European level are helping. And in Slovenia, luckily, more and more we are talking about affordable housing, but the lack of funding is very big. At the moment, we have, as I said, 4,500 flats. We would need tomorrow at least 4,000 more to fill up the hole which we dig after the independence, and we are stepping up with our investments in the next 5 years. We hope to build 1,500 flats. That's a 33% increase, and that's a significant jump, but nevertheless, that would be on the level of Ljubljana, about 7-8% of all housing stock. And the second thing is that I miss personally, and my colleagues and stakeholders on the field of affordable housing, is that non-for-profit housing associations basically do not exist in Slovenia. We are trying to help the ones that are kicking off and starting, but a legislative environment in Slovenia is set to market rules. So whatever tool we use to give the non-for-profit housing association land or any help is according to the market rules, and that doesn't mean, and that means that the financial feasibility of the project they are trying to put up is very hard. And as I said on the beginning, it's very hard for us as a city and as a country with minimum percentage of affordable housing stock. It's 6% of all housing stock in Slovenia is affordable. Basically, all is owned by the state, local authorities, or public housing funds. 90% of the stock is ownership based, and it's very hard to compare to other countries, and the cohesion on the European level should be met. And maybe the attention on the cohesion on the part of affordable housing on the European level is not so so put in front as it should be, because one of the basic pillars of the European Union, that's free movement of people, is an empty right without the possibility of the person who comes to a city or the country to have a stable roof over its head. However, maybe I pointed out only problems and some prospects and bright lights that we see in the future. Our housing projects that are ongoing, we will for sure use the recovery fund to fund some of our housing projects, but on the long term, without a stable source of financing of affordable housing, it will be practically impossible to establish a decent share of affordable housing in our country. Nevertheless, we will not stop at trying. We will not stop at advocacy on the local and state level, and it's not looking so bad at the moment. The opposition is putting in a law who would enable 10,000 more units on the state level, and also on the political agenda in Slovenia, housing is more and more present. That's in short, but and thank you if there's any questions. Thank you.
Yes, thanks a lot, Sasho. Excuse us for the bad connection, but it was so excited that we have one of the first visitors group coming again after 1.5 years to see Vienna and to exchange with the city of Vienna, and that coming from Ljubljana, that we could not do differently. I will collect questions for later. I would like to move now to the second city example, which is the one that Linda has brought with her for us today. Linda Schneider is working for the city of Vienna. She's involved in an exciting project, which is called Vienna New Plus, Wien Neu Plus. And Linda, I understand that you will share your presentation yourself.
Hello, Michaela. Thank you very much. If it doesn't bother you, could you share the presentation? Because then it's easier to open my notes.
Yeah, but you only send it to me as a PDF, so this is a bit a challenge. I try my best. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
But get started, Linda,
Yeah,
I
sure.
open it. Yeah, good.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak in this webinar today. I'm Linda Schneider from the city of Vienna, from the Department of Technical Urban Renewal. My background is also in urban planning, and I'm the co-lead of the project, as Michaela already said, Wien Neu Plus. It's a little difficult to translate it to English, I realize now, but it's a little word play that could be translated to just like new. And in the next 10 minutes, I will tell you why we decided to copy and paste a successful EU-funded project and decided to do it all over again. So it all started in 2016 when the project Smarter Together came rather unexpectedly into our department, and we were supposed to do the project lead. It was an EU-funded project with the cities of Lyon and Munich, and in total we had 25 million euros for demonstrating and implementing innovative smart city solutions in one neighborhood. Thank you very much. If you could go to the third slide already. Yes, perfect. We chose the neighborhood of Simmering, which is what you would probably call a rather difficult area. It has a high percentage of people with migrant backgrounds. It has a high percentage of working class people. So that means that the educational level or the level of high school diplomas is rather low. And under the city's average, it has low income, etc., etc. But we managed quite successfully, and we managed to, in total, implement 41 single projects within Smarter Together in this neighborhood of Simmering in the fields of refurbishment and energy, infrastructure, data, mobility, city logistics, and of course, always including and informing the local inhabitants, the people living in the area and working in the area. So for example, we implemented the first mobility point in Vienna. We now already have 7 of them, and the transport provider aims to establish 100 of those mobility points in the coming years. We also have three large subsidized or social housing complexes that were also refurbished with a total of 620 flats. And the large housing complex, as you can see in the bottom line, was not only refurbished, and you can clearly see an improvement, but also the first e-car sharing in a social housing complex in, I think in Austria, was established. And for this eco sharing to be successful and especially long lasting, a so-called active group was founded, which you can see on the next slide. It consists of now 5 to 10 tenants, a bit less than on the picture, and they actively take care of the cars. They clean them, they repair them, they help interested tenants in how to get to know the cars and how to use them, etc. But not only does this benefit the tenants, this eco-sharing, but during the whole refurbishment process and the participatory process around it, it also took away some of this frustration that occurred during the refurbishment with all the noise, with the dust, and with all the inconveniences, and moved the discussion towards this more positive topic of car sharing and also e-cars. So a lot of people there were just very excited to use e-cars for the first time in their lives. Next slide, please. So of course, we learned a lot of things in Smarter Together, but I will only highlight some of them now. Going into the neighborhood and talking to people is key. Face-to-face communication is key. Trust has to be developed, and therefore, especially local institutions are highly valuable because they have the trust of the inhabitants already. They know where to reach them, and they know how to speak to the people. I mean, you can imagine if you're struggling daily with getting your life together and surviving, you're not really open for climate neutrality and discussions about that. What else? First of its kind solutions, as I described with the mobility point, they need participation on site. It needs someone to explain to the people how to use it properly, to make them become familiar with this new technology. For example, with the eco-sharing, how to use this whole sharing system, but also with new technical solutions like new heating systems, etc. And there, in this case, the EU funding came in very handy because it gave us these extra resources, these extra financial resources, but also the extra personal resources to be on the side and to be able and to have the time to talk to the people and make them become familiar with it. The interdisciplinary approach of Smarter Together with combining all possible. However, our administrative structure is not really made for that. We have this rather silo thinking in the city administration. So it needs some cross-thematic institution, department, or whatever within the city administration that can deal with the complexity of urban renewal, of development in the built city. This is very different to developing a new area. Smarter Together showed us that it takes about 5 years from the first idea to the actual implementation. Therefore, time is valuable and has to be given in order to make it a long-lasting project and in order to make it last longer than only the project duration. And last, and maybe most importantly, innovative solutions need extra budgets for experimenting, for testing, and for implementing these innovative solutions, because a lot of questions occur that we will have to need answers for. For example, who will give a permit? Who will be responsible? Especially who will be responsible in the operational phase? And all these questions that need a lot of discussions with different stakeholders. Next slide, please. So Smarter Together became a huge success within the city of Vienna. So the city politics decided to do it all over again, but not only once, but 5 more times. And this time we decided to do it with our own budget. So that was the birth hour of Wiener Plus. Next slide, please. Wiener Plus is designed for 10 years, and within these 10 years, 5 neighborhoods will be approached just like in Smarter Together, with this cross-thematic, interdisciplinary view, and with bringing different stakeholders on the same table. And those 10 years will allow us, and this is very important, and I'm very happy that we have the opportunity to do that. It will allow us to learn from ourselves and to directly implement the learnings in the next project area. In Wiener Plus, we defined 3 main pillars, which are important in urban renewal. It is the buildings with all its related topics to buildings, obviously, such as carbon neutral, energy consumption or production, cooling solutions. This becomes increasingly important in Vienna, but also everything around circular economy. The public space is just as important, and obviously also the people living and working in this area, thus including the local economy. And as I mentioned before, that innovative solutions also need extra budgets. Could you please go to the next slide? Thank you. Innovative solutions need extra budgets. So we decided to create our own 2 funding schemes. One for technical solutions in this whole refurbishment and energy field, where innovative solutions can be funded with up to 500,000 euros. And the second one is for the inhabitants in the project area. So where interested people living in the project area can get funding for their own projects. For this, they can get up to 30,000 euros. A jury consisting of representatives from local institutions, but more importantly, also consisting of inhabitants, decide over the submitted projects. So our aim with this jury is not only to financially support local ideas, but also to strengthen the participation of inhabitants in their local development, in their development of the neighborhood. So we're only 1 year into Wiener Plus, but it's already starting to really kick in, and I'm very excited about the coming years. And with this conclusion, I thank you very much for listening.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Linda. I am especially happy that you could present a project that has been like kicked off with a lot of help from the European Union in the Horizon funding program, because this was the start of the Smarter Together project, but that the city really now decided to roll it out. And I think I look at Anna a little bit, Anna Atanasopoulou. This could be a blueprint, no, for the Affordable Housing Initiative, just to mention that one. Okay. We have had a few. I invite everybody also to look into the chat, because people are continuing to share thoughts and hints for more information. But the involvement of citizens and tenants and residents is a point that has been discussed also in the chat by Jury, I think from Habitat for Humanity. Yeah, you are here. Yeah, good. Talking about the special aspect of engaging citizens in the formerly, I would say formerly public, but now privatized apartments in the Eastern European countries, and how to do it over there is kind of a challenge very often. And how to do it has also been discussed on several levels and by the Housing Partnership. But there's a lot of more examples we hopefully are able to share with you now with the next presentation, which is the one of Barbara Steenbergen from the International Union of Tenants. She's the director of the Brussels office and member of the board of the IUT, but she's here today also on behalf of the European Responsible Housing Initiative, and where they seem to collect quite some examples since several years now already for good housing solutions, participatory solutions, protective solutions, and neighborhood-based approaches. So yeah, Barbara, the floor is yours. And after Barbara, I will leave again some time for questions and answers. Barbara.
Yes, good morning, everybody. I'm very happy to be here. As Michaela already told, I have two hats on today. I'm the head of the European Office of the International Union of Tenants, but today I'm speaking to you as chair of the jury from the European Responsible Housing Awards. We have been talking a lot about community engagement, community empowerment, how to, in a way, make residents go into this new climate goals of the European Union, how to embrace their engagement and their initiatives. And therefore, I think we have to do more. We have to go the extra mile that we haven't perhaps been going before. So I think it is very important to find a classical way and a way which is feasible for the residents to involve them into good, affordable, fair, and inclusive housing projects. And how to do this? I mean, this is not rocket science. It is possible. So we, the International Union of Tenants, together with Housing Europe and Delphis, the partners, we sketched the European Housing Initiative. This initiative was founded and co-founded together with the European Commission in the year 2013 to 2014. And then we started to explain for the first time what is necessary to have real corporate social responsibility in the housing sector, and not top down, but together with the actors. And so the European Responsible Housing Initiative was founded. It is extremely important to know that this initiative is the first one that we have in the sector, where the sector actually also signed a code of conduct. So the stakeholders of the sector, the housing providers, together with the cities, together with the residents and tenants, they found a code of conduct together, which is kind of an agreement on a union level. So this is a premiere. It's new at European level, and I encourage everybody to read those code of conduct of the European Responsible Housing Initiative when you want to really go one step beyond the obvious. So what is the code of conduct? It is about housing affordability. It is about good quality housing. What does this actually mean? It is about contributing to the empowerment of the tenants and the residents and their well-being, and to create sustainable local communities. And this is something which is very easy on paper, but to do it really in the quarters, it is not so easy, as we all know, because to manage all the challenging issues coming up, renovating the houses, empower the residents, make this whole thing affordable in order not to evict those people after renovation, after refurbishment of their houses. This is the challenge that we have to face. And There are not so many good initiatives yet at European level, but there are more, and we do encourage them to sign the Code of Conduct of the European Responsible Housing Initiative in order to say very clearly, okay, we go for corporate social responsibility in the sector. This is our basic DNA. So how can you contribute to this wonderful initiative? What can you do? There is an awards. The European Responsible Housing Awards has actually been launched this week. It is very fresh. You can contribute to it if you think you have a very special, a very innovative, a very inclusive and progressive project. You can contribute, you can apply until the end of this year. This awards is open to the social housing providers, to the affordable housing providers, but also to all those cities who directly are in charge of the supply of affordable and social housing. And I know today we have many city representatives amongst us, and I encourage them to apply for the European Responsible Housing Awards, because we want to bring your good examples, your efforts really in the spotlights. Who is going to evaluate what are the best projects? Well, I can tell you, this is at the first place evaluated by the residents themselves, because for them, you are doing it, right? So, but not only the residents, we have in our jury, we have a broad range of corporate social responsibility specialists. We have a broad range of tenant protection, of law specialists and experts. We have the sector of the architecture involved. We have the trade unions involved. We have the cities themselves involved. So a broad range of experts are checking what is going on and evaluate the best projects. So I think it is very important that we talk more about the European Responsible Housing Awards and initiatives, because with the Affordable Housing Initiative that is launched now by the European Commission, luckily, fortunately, I don't think you have to reinvent the wheel. We already did our homework, and it was actually started thanks to some support of the European Commission. So we are already there to support you and to guide you also to some very good practical examples. So coming back to the awards, what are the categories which we evaluate? It is, first of all, fair financing for housing affordability, because at the end, I have to say, as a tenant activist, it all turns around the affordability issue. It makes no sense if you live in a wonderful house, but you cannot afford it and you have to move. The second category is community engagement, empowerment. How can we create equal opportunities for housing communities? So this is co-determination. This is talking and empowering your residents. The third category, it's the classical. This is referring to really energy efficiency projects, Green Deal. And therefore, I can tell you the principle of housing cost neutrality after renovation will play an important role. What does this mean, housing cost neutrality? This means that after renovation, in all member states, the rents can be raised. But the housing cost neutrality is achieved if those increase of the rent is balanced fully by energy savings at the same amount. This sounds challenging, but it is possible, thanks also to public financing. The fourth category is building strategic alliances and fostering community participation. This is really about how to make weak communities tough quarters. Linda was talking about also a quarter in Simmering where she has her initiative. Sometimes the people do not have the time to think about climate change or other things because they have to fight for their daily life. They are threatened by their losses of jobs. So how to really bring the people to this community engagement, also, let's say, beyond their daily struggles. This is really core, I think. The fifth category is empowering the team. And this is talking about, yeah, the housing providers themselves. If they want to go the extra mile, they need a lot of skilled stuff. And this is not easy to find. So they need people really able to empower the communities, because this is not only about bricks and mortars, this is more. This is social work, and this is work for really, yeah, engaging in quarters. And this is sometimes hard to find also at professional level. Now, we have also in our edition now, 2022, a special prize. I think many housing providers tried their best to counter the challenges of the COVID-19 crisis, and they had to do more, because this was all turning around security of tenure, safe housing, giving the people really a roof. Do not evict them on the streets because they cannot pay their rents anymore, because they lost their job because of COVID and the pandemic. So we also created a special prize, going the extra mile in extraordinary circumstances. So to end up my presentation, I think you can read all the criteria of the evaluation process on responsiblehousing.eu, our website. And I would like to invite you really to apply, show what you have, show what you can bring to us at European level. And I promise we will really put you in the spotlights. The awards ceremony will take place during the International Social Housing Festival in Helsinki, Finland, where all housing actors fighting for affordability, for fair chances, for tenant and community engagement will be present. So this is a big event in Finland, and there we will have an own awards ceremony for you. I hope you join us. You find all the addresses and all the stuff where you need to address to, and I thank you very much for your kind attention.
Yes, thanks a lot, Barbara, again, for advertising this important, not only initiative, but obviously also the award. And again, I do see that people have been sharing, Sorka has been sharing the links also in the chat. All these presentations and links will be available after the seminar. It will take a little while to write the report. I look at Kasia as well, but I think that this is important to share. We have now a little bit of time again for questions or comments from the audience. So I invite you to raise your hand or put them in the chat. We'll be happy to take your ideas before we come to our next speaker, who is Andrea Colantonio from the European Investment Bank. But anyway, questions and comments are obviously welcome now. I hope I don't overlook any of your hands or no. Good. Yeah. So then I invite, as Barbara said, I invite everybody, if there is no question or comment, I can't see anyone in the chat now, to really take part in this initiative, to ask your mayors to sign the code of conduct, to ask your cities to participate in the awards exercise, to, you know, contribute to that, because if you look at the previous editions of the European Responsible Housing Awards, you will find a lot of great projects across Europe with a good geographical balance, with a good, I would say also, presentation of the different ways cities, regions, housing providers have found to solve problems and tackle issues. So really, and a lot of them had money from one of our good partners, the European Investment Bank. And this is why I will now, a lot has been said already about the issue of financing. And clearly, there is a topic about the the question is, with the social economic crisis coming after the pandemic, will cities and countries and regions have enough money? Tax revenues are going to go down, the public budgets will be under stress and under pressure. So one of the big issues is, where shall the money come from? And one of the partners in this, in housing finances since many, many years, is the EIB. And I'm therefore very happy that Andrea Colantonia is here with us today to share a little bit what the EIB is planning and has been doing in the past to assure that social and affordable housing solutions can be brought to the ground. Andrea, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Michaela. We have been financing social and affordable housing for almost 20 years. And now the sector is an important sector within the bank and is very well established. We have developed a range of products and also worked with a variety of clients and promoters over the years. I don't know if the audience is familiar with our products and our activities, but broadly speaking, we have a range of products that includes investment loans, framework loans, intermediated loans, investment platform, and also advisory, which is an aspect which has also been mentioned by Anna during intervention. In terms of clients, we work with again with a variety of promoters. Our the biggest in terms of numbers promoters are housing associations, but also we work with cities and municipal companies, regulated housing, social and affordable housing providers. National promotional banks, financial intermediaries are becoming more and more important, especially in some member states, but also commercial banks. In terms of what we finance social and affordable housing for rent. Housing for sale is excluded unless they meet some specific public policy goals. We finance refugees accommodation, reception centers, student accommodation, and care homes and assisted living. We don't finance unplanned urban housing development and urban sprawl, but more importantly, speculative housing projects, because I know it's becoming a serious issue with big investment funds, specifically in some countries. In terms of figures, over the last 5 years, we've been roughly investing 9.5 billion. So we're doing 2 billion a year. And 90% of our lending is direct operations. So we work with one promoter directly. We define an investment program and we finance this investment program. The other 20% is intermediated lending, which allow us to reach smaller players and providers of social affordable housing, which will not be able to receive our funding because the size of their projects. Why we've been supporting the sector and will continue to support the sector. This is primarily for 3 main reasons. Firstly, the provision of decent housing is key to promote social equity. So there's an social equity rationale and argument behind our activity, as well as the promotion of inclusive and sustainable urban development. Secondly, housing is a multidimensional sector which impact and contribute directly towards the promotion of multiple sustainable development goals. More specifically, SDG 11, it's the main goal, but also SDG 1 on poverty reduction, SDG 3, 5, and 10. So there is the public policy rationale is to contribute to the implementation of not only the EU urban agenda, but the UN global urban agenda. Lastly, as Michaela pointed out at the beginning, there is a clear investment gap and a clear market failure, because the market by itself is not able to provide decent and affordable homes for everybody. The gap at the moment between 2018 and 2030 has been estimated in a conservative scenario in 91 billion. But if we adopt a comprehensive scenario, this is almost three-quarter of a trillion, so 741 billion. The figures are enormous and staggering. So we're doing with our activity what we can. There are, however, moving on to the challenges ahead for the sector, there are a number of challenges, and not only from a financial point of view. The first and most important challenge is, of course, the economic and health crisis induced by the COVID-19 pandemics. This is a huge crisis which has had an impact on the budget of cities, but also on the budget of and the balance sheets of housing associations, affecting their ability to not only maintain the housing, social housing stock as well, but also providing new housing services. There have been emergency measures implemented by governments, like support for rent, which originally were introduced in 2020, then extended to mid this year. In some countries, these measures have been, they also included not allowing evictions, stopping rent evictions, and so on. So the support, the national and local support has been there. So we're not, in my views, we're not seeing the full impact of the crisis until this measure stops. So we're seeing a partial picture, which will become clearer, unfortunately, over the next few months when the support and this measure will come to an end. We're also observing that local and national government agencies are increasingly encouraged to raise money on the financial markets. So the grants and the support has been decreased because of national budgets. So we're seeing clients and promoters which we would have not normally seen during pre-pandemics, because they were 100% financed by national governments and local and regional governments. But now they've been encouraged to raise money on the market and increase their debt. So they're coming to not only to us, but also to other financial organizations. I also would like to point out one aspect which has been highlighted in the chat, and it's the double affordability issue. So we normally refer to the affordability of tenants, but what is becoming clear now is the affordability for housing promoters, because over the last few years, the last few months, the increase of cost material construction and raw material has literally skyrocketed. So the cost of building housing has really increased dramatically. So what we're seeing now in our operations is that a number of housing associations, unfortunately, they are postponing the construction of new homes, opposing at least their investment programs until the whole market cools down a little bit. So we're seeing promoters which are asking us to delay the disbursement of our loans, because they're saying it's become prohibitive for us to build right now, because we have cost caps, and the cost of construction materials had literally gone up 30-40%. So this is well beyond our budget, and unfortunately, until probably the end of certainly the end of 2021, but also well into 2022, we need to pause our investment program, which is not good for anybody, really. But let's also look at some opportunities for the sector. Anna, in her speech, also mentioned the recovery and resilience plans, and housing has been included. The promotion of social and affordable housing has been included in a number of these plans, and we've been working with a number of member states on how to best provide our support to the implementation of this resilience plans, because housing is often being packaged as part of urban regeneration plans. But also, we've been discussing with member states on how to co-finance specific projects on the ground. Secondly, the other opportunity, which has been mentioned a number of times, is the renovation wave, and then the new the Green Deal, which will be implemented by the Commission, also through a number of partnerships. And the EIB, as a bank, we have published the Climate Bank roadmap, which sets ambitious targets in terms of our climate action lending. I believe that this initiative will have a catalytic effect on the sector, not only on new construction, but also on the refurbishment of the existing housing stock, which is becoming quite old, is aging. In some member states, housing stock is 56-year-old, has been maintained, but could do with a bit more maintenance and modernization. So the support for the modernization in terms of energy efficiency of housing stock is clearly one of the EIB priorities. And last but not least, I would like to highlight that since January this year, a number of social and affordable housing projects that we finance are now included in the EIB Sustainability Awareness Bonds, as they contribute to the Sustainable Development Goal. So we want to provide, we'll continue to provide support for the promoters, for the housing association and cities. But on the other side, not on the lending side, but on the fundraising side on the market, we wanted to respond to an increasing demand of capital markets for investment in social sustainability. So by including social and affordable housing in the sustainability awareness bonds, we are giving investors, international investors, the opportunity to invest in projects which have a measurable social impact. And these sectors includes also social housing. Also, this inclusion provides a helpful stepping stone and a practical contribution to the future inclusion of social and affordable housing within the EU taxonomy for sustainable finance, which is a work which is under development. And in fact, we have already presented our methodology and our framework to a number of expert groups working on the development of the taxonomy. And with this, I would like you to thank you for I would conclude my intervention. I would like to thank you for inviting me.
Yes, thanks a lot, Andrea, and thanks for being such a stable partner with affordable and social housing solutions since so many years, not only the EIB in general, but also you with your knowledge and the expertise that you are always open to share. That's really, really great. We have now time for a few comments and questions, and I see that Sorka Edwards from Housing Europe has raised her hands, and she has a question for you, Andrea. Sorka, please step in.
Yes, thank you very much, Michaela, and I hope we will have plenty of reactions to the call for projects that Barbara has made, the Responsible Housing Awards. Obviously, a lot of positive developments and heard about today from the Commission and other actors, but indeed, also linked to the Affordable Housing Initiative, I wanted to just raise a point with Andrea to touch upon the really crucial challenge on the ground now that housing providers are facing. So I think many of you know, we bring together the public, social and cooperative housing providers around the EU. There's approximately 43,000 of those. And what we are doing now is looking to what extent the recovery plans have been mobilized. So in our latest estimate by our study carried out by Edith Lakatos, my colleague, we estimate approximately 6 billion is planned to be used for social and public housing from the recovery plans. That's out of that 53 billion announced by Ursula von der Leyen. So it's of course welcomed, but we will investigate where the gap is. So it's about 12%. And we are also, let's say, cautiously welcoming the announcement of the potential use of auctioning revenue from the ETS. Of course, it is very controversial, the extension of ETS to which will allow a direct increase of people's bills. But the overall announcement of a fund, a climate social action climate fund, is extremely welcome. And all of these direct subsidies are really needed, because I think, as Andrea pointed out, the local housing providers that are carrying out most of the renovation are becoming more over leveraged, and the new increase in construction costs is going to even put more pressure on those. So Andrea, you also mentioned the taxonomy. So at the moment we're looking at the taxonomy, but it looks like the conditions, because they ask for investment that goes even beyond NZEP. So we wait to see whether or not it will really result in more funding for social and affordable housing providers, but we will continue to work on that. But what we're hearing is, let's say, more loans. So a certain amount of subsidies, but more loans. But from what you're feeling from the ground, would you also call for really more upfront subsidies, so to prevent this over leverage? Or do you see the loans really being able to help deliver the renovation wave to the extent, so to double the renovation wave by 2030 as announced in the Green Deal? This question is really crucial if we want to maintain affordability. So the question of public subsidies combined with loans. And so far, the subsidies, as I say, are coming through, but maybe not enough. How does the EIB see this balance?
Thank you, Sorka. And maybe you can unraise your hand.
Yes.
So we're not confused here in the moderation team. Yes. Good. So Andrea, if you want to answer directly, it will be fine.
Yes, of course, grants are always welcome, but again, we're seeing that public budgets are shrunk quite dramatically, and we're ready to co-finance project. We normally co-finance project with which have EU or national subsidies, but we, of course, as a EIB, we don't have any control or any saying on the level of grants. But I can only tell you that our operation has have a little bit slowed down because of a number of multiple and cumulative issues, not least this increase in costs. There is also the high environmental standards that needs to be achieved, which in some cases I understand that they have put more pressure on increase of cost, construction cost, reaching NZEP standard, nearly zero energy building standards, plus 20% in some situations. So the landscape is complex, but yes, as EIB, I can reaffirm and confirm that we will continue to co-finance. We're ready to co-finance project and also support the implementation of the resilience and recovery funds, which of course do not focus only on housing, but also there is housing also, as I mentioned, of small and medium enterprises. There's a dimension of innovation. There is a dimension of digitalization for services provision. So yes, I mean that it is an issue. The cost increase is an issue, and I think we need to work together on finding solutions on how to address it.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Andrea, for that. And we are quite good in time. So I would like to, if she wants again, to come back to our keynote speaker, Anna Athanasopoulou. Maybe you want to do a final comment or reflection moment before I give the floor to our host, Mr. Jan Olbricht, for the closing remarks and conclusions. Anna, if you want, you are now, as our keynote speaker, I would like to invite you to share a last comment or remark if you want. Well, it doesn't look like. Okay, so happy that you all contributed to this seminar, all the speakers, and I'm very happy now to leave the hard task of moderating and give the floor back to our host, Jan, but not before thanking, of course, your team, Kasia, and all the others that helped to organize this. It was great to work with you again together. But Jan, I leave my job, I quit my job now, and the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Michaela, and I must say that I'm very proud that I have a very good team, the team which is working not only in Brussels, but also in Katowice, so we are doing it together. So it makes the whole intergroup urban work a little bit easier. And I would like to also to thank Andreas Schieder, who is our vice president, for the opening remarks. But let me, because we have some time, let me give you some remarks, because I was listening very carefully the whole debate. As you remember very well, the debate about the housing has a long history in European institutions. I think that some of you remember that when we started about almost 15 years ago speaking about housing, it was not very clear if it's a really European problem. The first reaction of many colleagues in the parliament, but also especially the institution, was no, don't touch it, because this is not a European problem. I mean, housing in general. Next, we discovered that it is the European problem, but not housing as such, but this is the question of, especially of the state aid. And the different definition of social housing, affordable housing. At that time, you remember, we didn't speak about affordable housing. We spoke about the social housing. What was not very clear, that the definition of social housing is completely different in different member states. So that's why the state aid rules were different. I just want to quote the very famous debate about Dutch housing at that time. So, but step by step, I think that especially with the very, very important activity of all the organization working on the housing. And I mean the people working on the Housing Europe, about tenants organization, etc. You are pressing, you are pushing us to take it into account and not to make it purely political. Because if we make it political, it will be a problem of controversy with different political angles. This is not political in terms of political parties. This is a political problem in terms of policy. I mean, is it a real European policy? And I think today we can see how important it is. I think it was really important, the partnership, which was in the framework of the urban agenda. And I would like to give special tribute to Elena and to Michaela for the extremely important job. As you remember, what we were trying to together with you to stress is that it's not enough to make the different institutions to sit around the same table, which was not very easy, which was still is not very easy. But to make them sit around the table, but not only to finish with the action plan, but to have in mind the follow-up, the consequence of the partnership, of the different approaches. So I think I'm very glad to see that there are different consequences of the partnership. It doesn't mean it's not always the direct consequence of the partnership, but I mean, in partnership, it created a kind of dynamic. And the dynamic is now, we can observe it now in different activities. And I think this is really very important, that this partnership gave a real push to the problem, especially when the problem of the housing and affordable housing is becoming more and more difficult. And it's not easier, Now it's more difficult. When you look at the different external conditions, the question of prices concerning the construction, and the whole, what was said today, the ecosystem, which is the construction, which is in the real difficulty today. I mean, the prices are going up. It will have the consequences for housing. And at the end, we just heard something which I don't know, and I hope it will work, is the social climate fund. Because the social climate fund sounds good, but the question is, who will be the beneficiary of the fund? Because if we speak about the affordable housing and social housing, the question is how to make it easier for the tenants, how to make it easier also for promoters. But the question is where this fund will go. I think this is very, very important. We are waiting for this in the parliament, because the question is, can it reduce a kind of growing costs, which is really the most important for the people living in this housing. I'm really very glad to see that the whole housing problem is much more complex. It's not just about living in the buildings. It's not only about buildings, but this is also about the energy. And I mean, different ideas concerning the energy, I mean, the savings, etc. Especially when especially the heating system is so important in Europe. This is about climate. I mean, the climate not as a slogan, but the concrete consequences of the climate changes. It was very interesting to listen to you that the idea of partnerships is now developing on different levels, different kinds of partnerships, because it cannot be done by one partner. It should be done together. It's like the participation of citizens. That's why I welcome very warmly the cases. I mean, the proposals which have been best practices which has been proposed. That should be really examples to be presented. So because the participation of citizens on it is absolutely crucial today, and this is the way to avoid problems. Politically speaking, this is something very important, and of course I welcome the very clear information from the EIB. For me, it was interesting to listen what can be financed. It was quite concrete from the EIB. So I think it's for all of us, what can be financed, what cannot be financed. I think this is very, very important. So thank you very much. And to remind us that there are some different general values like SDGs. SDGs, we don't speak about SDGs in Europe very often. We speak about the Green Deal. You know, have you forgotten SDGs? But SDGs is something which is still very important. But there are also very interesting activities and the ideas like Horizon 2030, which I think is so important. And of course, the Affordable Housing Initiative. It was said that some elements were already began some years ago. So I welcome this initiative of the Commission, and of course what is for me as a budget person is really interesting, the way of financing of this. I was listening very carefully. What can be financed and where are the resources? But I mean, there are possible resources. So possible resources, it means that we don't know very well what will be the reality. We are still waiting for all the information concerning RRF and the National Recovery Plan. And so we hope that in these plans there will be more space for housing. I also think that the question of the idea of the new initiative in this 100 lighthouse, etc., is something very concrete. So I think this meeting for the people who are interested in housing can seem a little bit overloaded by different informations and ideas, but it's not. I think, I think it can give us the kind of clear map of different ideas. And the question is not to make the silos inside. I mean, this is really very important. The question is to work together and to at least to make the exchange of information. I think this is absolutely basic. And not to forget that one of the ideas is to create also the communities, the social work, like create like tenants communities, because without this kind of trust between the tenants, it will not work. It's not a question of institutions, because it's not about buildings. This is about the people who are living in the buildings. It's about people, it's about us. So I think thank you very much. I don't think that this is like the last meeting. A lot of things ahead of us. Thank you once again for the coordinators of partnership, Elena and Michaela, and I think you will not lose the motivation to continue and to push up to this. Thank you very much indeed, and I'm very glad that this meeting was very, very important and interesting. Thank you.